I discovered Emily's infidelity by accident. Laughably banal. I forgot my phone at home and returned for it during lunch break. The front door was unlocked. Strange. My wife is usually very careful about such things. An unusual silence filled the house. Emily should have been at work. She teaches at an elementary school. Em? I called, climbing the stairs. No one answered. Muffled voices came from the bedroom. My heart skipped a beat. I froze at the door, not daring to open it. Something fell inside, followed by male laughter. Quiet, darling, Emily's voice, unusually playful. We don't have much time. I turned and quietly went downstairs, sat in the car. My hands were shaking so much I couldn't insert the key into the ignition. Called work, said I was sick, drove to the lake, our favorite spot with Emily, former favorite. The phone was exploding with calls. Boss, colleagues, then Emily. Honey, where are you? Your work called me. I didn't answer. Sat on the shore, looked at the water, and wondered, how long has this been going on? Remembered the past months, her late nights at work, new clothes, mysterious smiles. How could I have been so blind? Had to return home in the evening. Emily was rushing around the kitchen, preparing dinner. Tom, I was so worried. Why didn't you answer your calls? Wasn't feeling well, went to get some air. You should have told me, I thought. Thought what? I looked at her intently. She looked away. Nothing, just worried. Dinner passed in tense silence. You're acting strange today, she noticed. Really? And how are you acting? What do you mean? Nothing. My head hurts. I'll go lie down. The following days I observed her, tracked calls, messages. On Friday she said, Honey, there's a teacher's meeting today. I'll be home late. Of course, dear. Good luck. I followed her. She didn't go to school but to the city center, parked at an apartment complex. 10 minutes later, a silver Lexus pulled up. A tall man in an expensive suit got out. They didn't even look around before kissing. On Saturday, Martha, my mother-in-law, called, Tom, could you come over? Need to talk. Did something happen? In person? Martha lived in the suburbs in a small, cozy house. After her husband's death, she preferred solitude. Come in, I made tea. She led me to the living room. What did you want to talk about? She paused, pouring tea. About Emily. I felt cold inside. What about her? You know what, Tom? I saw her with that man. How long ago? About 3 months ago. Hoped it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. We sat in silence for a long time. Then she covered my hand with hers. I'm so sorry, Tom. You don't deserve this. Her touch was warm, comforting. For some reason, I wanted to cry. After that conversation, I started visiting Martha frequently. She knew how to listen without judging. Maybe you should talk to her, she asked, pouring tea. About what? About how I know about her lover? At least try to understand the reasons. Do you understand? She's your daughter. Martha sighed. Sometimes I feel like I don't know her at all. At 50, she looked amazing. Slender figure, well-groomed hands, elegant simplicity in dress. Emily was her copy, just younger and colder. You know, Martha said once, I went through this too. What do you mean? John, my husband, he had another family. I choked on my tea. What? 2 children, younger than Emily. I found out a year before his death. What did you do? Nothing, kept quiet. He died never knowing that I knew. There was such bitterness in her voice that I involuntarily took her hand. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Nobody knew, not even Emily. Her fingers trembled in my palm, so fragile, delicate. Perhaps that's why I kept quiet about Emily, she continued. Thought maybe it's hereditary. My karma? Nonsense. You have nothing to do with it. She smiled sadly. Thank you, Tom. You're very kind. Our eyes met. Something flickered between us, some spark. Martha was the first to look away. She stood up, started clearing the cups. Will you stay for dinner? What will Emily say? Don't tell her. She has her secrets too. We started having dinner together often. Martha was an excellent cook. Never understood why Emily doesn't appreciate home cooking, she would say, serving me seconds. She doesn't appreciate a lot of things. One evening over wine, the conversation turned to revenge. Never wanted to get revenge? I asked. On whom? John, he's already dead. Emily, for what she's doing to me. Martha looked at me strangely. And how would you do that? I don't know, maybe. I broke off. What? No, it's stupid. She moved closer. Tell me. She smelled of some flowers. My head was spinning, either from the wine or from her proximity. Tom? I thought maybe. Her lips were so close, soft, slightly parted. Don't, she whispered. But she didn't pull away. The kiss was awkward, careful, as if we were both afraid of getting burned. This is wrong, she said, pulling back. I know. You're my daughter's husband. And she's cheating on me. Martha stood up, went to the window. Leave, Tom, please. I obeyed, but we both knew this was just the beginning. The following week, I avoided meeting Martha. Tried to convince myself that the kiss was a mistake. Emily continued her teachers' meetings. I no longer followed her. What was the point? On Friday, she announced, "Honey, I'm going to a conference for 3 days." "Where?" "Chicago. I'll be back Monday." I knew she was lying. There was no conference at the school. In the evening, Martha called, "Tom, how are you?" "Fine. Emily left for Chicago." A pause. "Not Chicago. She and Richard are at a country house." "You know his name?" "He's a partner at a law firm. Married, 2 children." "How do you know all this?" "Hired a private investigator. Wanted to be sure." "Why?" "I don't know. Maybe wanted to protect you?" There was something special in her voice, something that made my heart beat faster. "Come over," she suddenly said. "Don't want to talk on the phone." I arrived half an hour later. She was waiting on the porch in a light summer dress, despite the cool evening. "You'll freeze." "Not with you." The house smelled of jasmine and fresh baking, a bottle of wine on the table. "I've been thinking about that kiss," she said, pouring glasses. "Me too." "This isn't just about revenge, is it?" I shook my head. "No, not anymore." She sat next to me, too close. "I'm scared, Tom." "Of what?" "Of what I'm feeling, of what might happen." Her hand trembled as she lifted the glass to her lips. "And what might happen?" Instead of answering, she kissed me. This time without hesitation, without fear. Wine spilled on her dress, leaving red stains. "Sorry," I mumbled. "Doesn't matter." Her lips tasted of wine and something sweet. "Honey?" Her dress fell at her feet like a silk cloud. My shirt was left somewhere on the way to the bedroom. "Are you sure?" I asked at the threshold. "No, but I can't help it." She was beautiful. We didn't rush, explored each other with touches, kisses, whispers. "Tom," her voice trembled. I kissed her neck, shoulders. We dissolved into each other, forgetting about time and space. Passion washed over us like a wave, sweeping away doubts and fears. Afterward, we lay listening to the rain outside. When had it started? "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "That I don't feel guilty." "Neither do I." Her head on my chest, my arms around her waist. Everything felt so right. "What happens now?" "I don't know," I answered honestly. "But I don't want to lose this." She propped herself up on an elbow. "What about Emily?" "What about her?" Her smile flashed in the darkness, bitter, like honey with wormwood. "Stay until morning." I stayed, and the next night too. Emily returned on Monday, tanned, refreshed. "The conference was so exhausting." I nodded, pretending to believe. We were both playing our roles. She talked about non-existent lectures while I thought about the birthmark on her mother's back. "Are you listening to me?" Emily frowned. "Of course, dear, very interesting." The most difficult part of our game was beginning the monthly family dinner. "Mom will be happy to see us," Emily chirped. "She's been kind of sad lately." If only she knew why. Martha greeted us as usual, a kiss on her daughter's cheek, a restrained handshake with me. Only her eyes gave her away. Brown with golden sparks, like honey in the sun. "Come in, I prepared duck." Her voice didn't waver. At the table, Emily chatted endlessly. About school, friends, vacation plans. "Right, honey?" "What? Oh, yes, of course." "Tom's distracted today," Emily noted. "Tired from work." "You need to rest more," Martha said, passing me the sauce. Our fingers touched for a moment. An electric current ran through my body. After dinner, Emily helped her mother with the dishes. I went out to smoke on the veranda. "May I?" Martha appeared silently, like a cat. "Will your daughter notice?" "She's on the phone with a friend, with Richard to be precise." We stood side by side looking into the dark garden. "I miss you," she whispered. "I miss you too." "Tomorrow?" "At 6, I'll say I'm working late." "And I'm going to the theater with friends," she laughed bitterly. "We're all lying." "Mom!" Emily's voice made us jump apart. "Where are you?" "Here, darling," showing Tom the new roses. At home, Emily asked, "Mom seems different, don't you think?" "Seems normal." "No, she's glowing from within. Maybe she's seeing someone?" I choked on my whiskey. "What makes you think that?" "Well, she needs a personal life, too." "I suppose." Meetings with Martha became our secret ritual. Tuesday, Thursday, sometimes weekends. Each time like the first, each time like the last. If Emily finds out, she would start. "Shh," I would kiss her, interrupting heavy thoughts. We learned to lie virtuously. Work, fitness, friends, clients. Life turned into a complex dance between truth and lies. One day, Emily asked, "Why don't you get jealous anymore?" "Should I?" You used to always ask where I was, with whom. People change, or find comfort elsewhere. I looked into her eyes. Are you trying to ask something? No, she turned away, just thinking aloud. That evening I wrote to Martha, she suspects something. I know. She watched us too closely at the last dinner. Maybe we should stop? Is that what you want? No. Me neither. We continued meeting, but became more careful. No glances, no accidental touches. Perfect son-in-law and mother-in-law. Model husband and caring mother. Only at night, in each other's arms, could we be ourselves. Sometimes I hate this lie, Martha would say. But I can't be without you. We decided to celebrate Emily's birthday at a restaurant. Just the closest people, her, me, Martha, and a few friends. Richard's coming too, Emily mentioned casually. He's my colleague on the school project. Martha and I exchanged glances. She turned pale. Wonderful, I smiled. Been wanting to meet your colleagues. The restaurant was trendy and expensive. Richard arrived last, tall, polished, self-confident. Happy birthday! He kissed Emily's cheek, too long for just a colleague. Martha sat across from me. The glass in her hand trembled slightly. Mom, you don't look well, Emily noticed. Did something happen? Just tired. Lots of work at the studio. Maybe Tom could drive you home after dinner. The girls and I want to hit some bars. I almost choked on my wine. Martha lowered her eyes. No need to trouble Tom, she began. No trouble at all, I interrupted. I'd be happy to. Richard watched us carefully, too carefully. The conversation at the table was strained. Emily flirted with Richard, barely hiding it. Tom, what do you do? Richard suddenly asked. Financial analyst, nothing interesting. On the contrary, they say you work a lot in the evenings? There was something suggestive in his tone. Sometimes, I met his eyes. Do you often go to conferences? He smirked, quite often, especially in Chicago. Martha stood up abruptly. Excuse me, I need the ladies' room. I'll come with you, Mom. They left. Richard and I remained alone. You know, Tom, he leaned closer, I'm observant too. What do you mean? I think you understand, just as I understand your silence about certain things. Mutual blackmail? I smirked. How banal. Let's call it mutual understanding. The women returned. Emily was beaming. Martha looked troubled. Honey, the girls and I are going to the bar across the street. You'll drive Mom home. Of course. In the car, Martha burst into tears. He knows. Richard knows about us. I know, he hinted quite clearly. What are we going to do? Nothing. He has his own secrets. What if he tells? Who? His wife or your daughter whom he's sleeping with? She shuddered. Don't say that. Why? It's the truth. We sat in the car for a long time at her house. We need to stop this, she said. You've said that before. This time I'm serious. Okay. Really? Instead of answering, I kissed her. Hungrily, desperately. Tom, I know, this is the last time. We both knew we were lying. In the bedroom, she whispered, Don't turn on the light. I don't want you to see my tears. But I saw them and kissed them, salty, bitter. This really should have been the last time, but fate had other plans. Everything was revealed in a banal and terrible way. Emily forgot her phone at home, just as I once did. That day, Martha and I lost our caution. A week had passed since our last time, and we couldn't resist. She's at a friend's, Martha said, until evening. I came to her house, as usual, parked around the corner, entered through the back door. We didn't make it to the bedroom. We're kissing in the hallway like teenagers. Mom, Tom? Emily stood in the doorway, pale, with eyes wide with horror. We jumped apart, but it was too late. God, she whispered. Oh, my God. Darling, Martha stepped toward her daughter. Let me explain. Hey, don't touch me! Emily recoiled. You... Emily, I began. Shut up! Just shut up! She ran out of the house. Car door slammed. Tires screeched. We need to go after her. I reached for my keys. No, Martha shook her head. Give her time. She's in such a state behind the wheel. She went to Richard. I know my daughter. We sat in the kitchen drinking whiskey, waiting. The phone rang an hour later. Richard, Emily's with me, he said. Hysterical. Told me interesting things. How is she? The sedatives worked. She's sleeping. I'll come. Don't. I think we all need to meet tomorrow. Discuss the situation. Where? At Joe's Cafe, noon. Martha nodded. We'll be there. We spent the night together, in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. Do you regret it? She asked near morning. What? Everything, us. No, do you? Only causing my daughter pain. We arrived at the cafe first. Emily and Richard appeared 10 minutes later. She wouldn't look at us. He looked unusually serious. So, Richard began, the situation is delicate. Indeed, I smirked. Emily wants a divorce. Me too. She looked up for the first time. Really? Yes, I think we all deserve honesty. Honesty? She laughed bitterly. From you two? Darling, Martha tried to take her hand. Don't call me that. We love each other, I said simply. Emily grew even paler. And what about me? She whispered. Did you think about me? Did you? Martha asked quietly. Did you think about Tom when you started seeing Richard? That's different. Why? Silence. Because you're my mother, Emily finally said. You should have. What? Been lonely, unhappy, content with being a grandmother to future grandchildren? But not with my husband. Ex-husband, I corrected. Richard coughed. I think we all need time. Time won't change what happened, Emily said. No, but it will help accept it. We went our separate ways, 4 people, bound by love and betrayal. Emily filed for divorce a week later. I didn't object. Richard left his wife. He and Emily moved to another city. And Martha and I, we stayed together. Our daughter will never forgive us, she says sometimes. Maybe, but she'll understand. When? When she's ready. Life goes on, not like before. Maybe better, maybe worse, but definitely more honest. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.